is another informative episode of Housing Development, a program that advocates for the provision of affordable, accessible and decent housing for all. As always, I am Flora Ani, your housing diva. Coming up today on the program, we shall look at the burden of heavy weight of house rent on individuals and families. Also, the unjust increase in house rent amidst the high cost of foodstuffs and other daily essentials. We shall be discussing these and more right after the trending news in the sector. Don't go anywhere.
The lingering land dispute between 11 host communities of the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, FUTO, is coming to an end following intervention of the Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodinma, and the constitution of 33-member mediation committee. The Governor of Imo State, Governor Hope Uzodinma, has intervened in the long-running land dispute between 11 host communities of the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, FUTO, establishing a 33-member mediation committee. It was noted that about 40 years ago, in 1982, the FUTO host communities, all in Owerri West Council of the state, donated more than 4,500 hectares of land to the government for the building of a permanent site for the institution, and due to the fast expansion of families of host communities, they demanded from FUTO authorities the extraction of 2,106 hectares of land to accommodate their settlement areas, of which was denied the communities. The host communities accused the institution of non-utilization of over 1,000 hectares of land for the construction of its teaching hospital, which provoked the dispute. The governor, however, directed the established committee to interface with disputing parties to ensure unity of purpose and amicable resolution of the land disputes. The Lagos State chapter of the Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyors (NIQS) has called for collaboration among professionals and experts in the industry in order to ensure sustainability in the country's built environment. Chairman of the chapter, Ayo Alao, made this known during a media conference to kickstart the chapter's week in Lagos. According to him, the socio-economic and environmental challenges of the different professionals in the built industry were not different from one another, and so collaboration was of the essence to move the industry forward. Addressing the quantity surveyors, he noted that the modern quantity surveyor needed to constantly improve their ability to maintain and support the building process continuously, as just like other professionals, they must remain immune against compromise for integrity and adopt approaches that create long-term value. The federal government has announced that a total of 3.24 million buildings in 3,937 settlements have been mapped and are connected to the nation's power grid. Temitope Fashedemi, Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Power, disclosed this in Abuja while outlining some of the recent milestones achieved by the ministry at the 5th National Council on Power, with the theme Sustaining and Improving Electricity Supply through the Power Sector Value Chain for Socio-Economic Growth. According to her, the ministry, through collaboration under Nigerian Energy Support Program, has achieved the mapping of over 3,937 settlements, 3,244,605 buildings, and 60,183 kilometers of 11 and 33 kV medium voltage line of the grid in 23 states. She described barriers impeding the sector's essential expansion, such as poor distribution system maintenance, and added that data collection will provide information for electrification planning, lowest cost of electrification, electricity access, and decision-making.
For more information on housing, finance and construction, do well to visit www.africanhousingnews.com. Most low-income Nigerians, especially renting civil servants, devote at least more than half of their income to covering house rent payment. How do they feel about this yearly rent obligation since they can afford to own a house of their own at this point in time? Take a listen at this speak.
The decision to move the capital city to the Federal Capital Territory by the military administration under General Ibrahim Babangida seems to be fast bringing a burden on civil servants working in the capital city. This is because majority of civil servants who work and live in the capital city and outskirts of Abuja are complaining over the rent obligation they have to meet every 12 months, and this is affecting their efficiency at work and inadvertently slowing down government business. Housing Development went around the capital city to feel the pulse of Abuja citizens on the matter, and some of the respondents lamented, amongst other things, the absence of regulation to curb the excesses of landlords who seem to be operating without any human face. Abdullahi Anas is a civil servant who lives in Kubwa. According to him, he said, as a civil servant, the house rent and what we earn as salary is nothing to write home about.
As a civil servant, federal civil servant here in Abuja, with the salary and what they are giving us as a house rent is very, very high. It's not nothing to write home about.
Adebayo Julius, in his comments, berated landlords in Abuja for failing to have a human face to see what tenants face yearly.
It's quite unfortunate that even we, the downtrodden, we are not helping ourselves, especially the landlord. I don't know, maybe because of the law attached to their name that made them to be misbehaving. Do you imagine that even despite the lockdown, some landlord will still be putting call across to you, still reminding you that your rent has expired? You stand? I don't know whether blood no longer runs in our vein. You stand? That will not make you to have more sympathy when it's come to house rent. Or better, like I said earlier, or because of the law attached to their name, landlord, that made them to be misbehaving.
The case of Linus Njoku, who lives in Maraba, Nasarawa State, and has to commute daily to work in the heart of the capital city, simply fits the experiences of civil servants and other Abuja residents, who in their majority have set their sights on small towns like Maraba, Masaka and Suleja because they cannot afford rent in the capital city.
In the first instance, every citizen of the country is supposed to own his own house. But unfortunately, because of the way things are, many of us have not been able to attain that stage. Then on the house rent itself, what I say is a terrible situation is the landlords are not they are not being forced to regulate the house rent or the amount that's supposed to be charged on a particular type of house or a particular side of the country. So if government is fully in control, we expected that government by now should have been able to say or to make a law. Houses in this part of the country should be, this is how much they should regulate, how much the landlord should be collecting. I know that building materials are too expensive and the government is not giving the landlords money to build or refurbish their houses. But at the same time, in as much as we have government in place, a lot of things are supposed to be regulated.
Godon Atai, in his comments, said, rent in a Sokoro is very high. One needs to go the extra mile to pay rent. A two-bedroom apartment can go as high as 2.5 to 3.5 million naira.
Rent in Asokoro is very high. In fact, one needs to go extra mile to raise money to pay rent. A two-bedroom apartment can go as much as 2.5, 3 million, sometimes even 3.5 million. And if one is not really having a reasonable source of income, you cannot live there. It's unnecessarily high.
Blessed Karam, who lives in a Sokoro extension, also lamented thoughts. House rent in the FCT is outrageous.
House rent in Abuja is very, very outrageous, considering that Abuja is the administrative hub of Nigeria. one would expect that house rent in Nigeria and in Abuja should be very, very considerate because most of the occupants of Abuja are civil servants. But to my greatest surprise, you see the house rent in Abuja is very, very outrageous that one can hardly afford. That's why you see people living in outskirts in Abuja instead of the Abuja city.
The plight of Nigerians, especially civil servants who pay rent annually with more than 30% of their income. Still on housing, the cost of accommodation across major cities in Nigeria has become a huge strain on the finances of average Nigerians who are still battling with the rising cost of goods and services as foodstuffs and other household items keeps increasing daily. Some landlords, even at this time of the year, unjustly increase their rent. This is another hurdle to cross by tenants and other accommodation seekers. Let's hear Nigerians speak on these on Voices on the Street.
If what I'm getting can carry the increment, why not to go on? But if what I'm making does not conform with the increment, I would disagree with my landlord. It's that simple. And if he decides to increase the house, we reach a compromise. If we do not agree, you can't fight somebody over his property. You see, you either leave or you stay.
Well, I'll feel bad because you cannot just wake up one day and start increasing rent. There is rule and procedure for everything. So you cannot just wake up and say you want to increase rent. But if such things happen, it will make me to begin to think otherwise. That this house is not my house. I cannot remain here forever. And he can also decide to say, okay, let me pack out of his house. So even if I drag it in court or any other means, one day I must leave the place because it's not my house. So I should also think of having my own as well.
I know that things are quite high, but the money is not there. Cost of living is high, but there is no commensurate income. Had it been we are getting the money, I wouldn't mind paying double. My landlord increased my rent this year, but we refused to pay because he did not give us notice. So what I'm planning today to pack out. I have a house somewhere that we have not completed. Anyhow it is to go and move in like instead of paying, because from what we are paying, they are going to increase it like double of the rent. We've been informed already. So the best thing is to leave. Things are very difficult. I've not experienced this in my life before.
Everything is rough this time around. You know, if landlord puts money or adds for his house rent, you know, you have to go and tell him how everything is going. In Europe or in other places, when things are rough like this, people reduce. And when people are rough, people, you know, in seasons like this, like Christmas, Easter, this Salah, you know, some of our landlords, or if you go to mall, they reduce. But here in Nigeria, is that time that we had the opportunity to put more, and which is wrong.
At least if the government in controls are not, you know, doesn't have time for the common man, at least we should have feeling to ourselves. Actually, if I'm a tenant in somebody's house and at the end of the day the price of the house later increase, at least I have to negotiate with the landlord. He's a human being. I have to speak to him in a manner that he will understand. But it is not his fault anyway. Even myself, is not my fault as a tenant, because we all know that to put a block on the floor now, it is not easy, because the prices are very, very, very high in the market.
I think it will be reasonable to approach the landlord, because we are all going to the same market, and then see a way out. If he can maybe give me some time for me to be able to adjust to the new rent. But other than that, I don't think it will be good to be combative.
Increasing rent at this time of the year is not fair. It will be wickedness on the part of the landlords to hike rent now. And in fact, let me put this straight. I think every good landlord, I'm a landlord to the glory of God, every good landlord, knowing what is happening today in Nigeria, would not be seen as fair or being a good person to increase the rent now, knowing that things are not quite fair on the side of the people. Are we talking about the cost of rice? Are we talking about petrol? Are we talking about transport? So it's not fair on the citizens that yet do not own houses in this nation. The government has failed us, so landlords shouldn't fail us.
Welcome back. The program is Housing Development, still on housing issues. How can the average and poor Nigerian cope with the high rental cost of houses, as many are still facing the challenges of owning a house due to the high cost of housing? How do we as a people build more low-cost housing that the low-income earner and even a young Nigerian with stable income can afford? Let's hear from this expert.
The UN Habitat, according to a research made, has it that by 2030, the world would need to build 96,000 new affordable homes every day to house an estimated 3 billion people who will need access to adequate housing. With Nigeria a focal point, there is a combined heightened demand with massive rates of inflation that has led to the cost of housing growing faster than incomes. In an interview with Housing Development Crew, this expert speaks on the issues of upsoaring rental housing due to inflation, as many Nigerians are yet grappling with housing affordability.
Presently what we are having worldwide, but Nigeria in specific term, is pricing transfer. You see, instead of transfer the aggression alone, they transfer it plus the pricing. Narrowing down to housing, the cost of cement, the cost of sand, the cost of POP, all the various inputs used in the built environment has increased. So the output now added value and prices. So whoever is having it, we want to transfer that to the end users, the off-takers, the individual. That is why you see presently that a landlord who has built a house for more than 10 years is suddenly increasing the prices for rent. Why are you doing that? It is for the fact that the money is going to buy goods and services in the same market. So the amount they will buy for flowers, what he will pay for his children's school fees, all have increased. So he too will find an outlet to vent his anger. And that is why you see increase in rent.
While those who own their homes or belong to the upper or middle income bracket have been lucky enough to offset costs by way of a significant increase in the value of their homes, this isn't the case for anyone who rents or belongs to the low income bracket, as financial crises have impeded housing stability.
Those people whom the World Bank has classified as any less than $1.90. They are the people we are concerned about, and they are the dominant of the population. So you do hear a slang that my take-home pay cannot take me home. That is just it. They are the people, they are the majority, but the money being paid to them cannot actually match their expenditure, their expenses on children, on health, education of the children, transportation, accommodation, which we are discussing about. So it's a big gamut of problem. And government is not giving subsidy to cushion the impact, the effect of the inflation on these people. For the big boys, those in the middle bracket income, high bracket, they have their ways and means of taking good care of them. But the people we should be concerned about are those at the base of pyramid that has the majority in the peri-urban, rural area.
For these experts, it is important that the government and necessary stakeholders commit to building affordable housing as this would create a balance between demand and supply in order to control inflation.
I'm Debbie Erb. I work for OPIC in the United States and keep watching the Affordable Housing Development Program.
The program is housing development. How do we bring sanity to a sector that is characterized by different level of malpractices? This is one of the questions, among others, that most Nigerians are asking about the real estate sector. Against this backdrop, the organizers of Africa Housing Awards say the award was established to promote excellence and reward excellent practices in the real estate sector. Which company deserves to win as the best in corporate social responsibility? Which one deserves to win as the best in customer service relationship? Alongside the African Housing Awards, the Affordable Housing Hall of Fame will also hold with two notable personalities inducted into the Affordable Housing Hall of Fame, Mr. Gbenga Fatimilehin, an estate Sovian valuer, and also the late Alhaji Abdul Abubakar, founder, Imani & Sons Limited, will also be posthumously inducted into the Africa Affordable Housing Hall of Fame. Now here's a quick one from the organizers. Welcome back. You're still watching Housing Development. Apo Urban Market, developed by Urban Shelter Limited, is up next.
With over 30 years of expertise in the built and construction sector, Urban Shelter Limited has constructed a modern market as part of ways to contribute to the commercial needs of FCT residents. Apo Urban Market, sitting on a 4.6 hectare of land, housing shops of various sizes with 2,335 shops, guarantees a variety in retail, work and recreation. The modern yet open design allows for simple shopping, banking, neighborhood activities and formal office spaces, all integrated to provide a welcoming environment to fulfill every customer's demand. In an interview with Yakubu Mohammed, the project manager of the Apo Urban Market, he discussed the many types of stores and how Apo Urban Market is contributing to the commercial sector, noting that the market's ancillaries are there to help businesses run smoothly and comfortably.
Apo Modern Market is sits on 4.6 hectare land. We are building shops of various sizes between 5 to 125 square meters. The concept is actually a modern concept. That's why it's termed Urban Modern Market. This is our own contribution, another contribution by Urban Shelter to add to the commercial niche of the FCT. We have the fire station. We have a police post, so it's going to be a very serene and very safe environment for everyday shopping and work experience.
The market's distinguishing feature from the contemporary market, according to Yakubu, is that it is all-encompassing, spanning not just retailers, but also offices and banks, with a flexible payment plan.
The payment plan, we have outright payment, we have instrumental payments so that we ease the payment. We know how the economic situation is, so we also have instrumental payment.
In an interview with the project supervisor, engineer Al-Amin Adam, he further talked more on the distinctive features of the Apo Urban Market.
Another thing that makes it unique is the fact that, other markets, you see them with, when the NEPA goes, Everyone comes out with his generator. We try to face that out here. We have central, generators, at different locations. That when the NEPA goes off, it starts immediately.
The need to provide safe, comfortable, functional, affordable and decent shelter in a proper setting within a neighborhood supported by continuous maintenance of the built environment for the daily living activities of individuals and families within the community cannot be overemphasized. On that note, I wrap up today's episode of Housing Development. Thanks for watching. I remain your housing diva, Fleur Annie. Do have a lovely day.